The wind howled across the ice plains of Frostholm like a wounded beast. Snow fell in thick sheets, turning the world into an endless white void. In this frozen wasteland, two massive figures lay chained to the ground, their bodies slowly dying. Kyle opened one golden eye with great effort. His scales, once shining bronze and beautiful, were now cracked and dull. Ice crystals formed along his spine and wings. Every breath sent sharp pain through his chest. The quantum chains wrapped around his body glowed with a faint blue light, draining his life force drop by drop. "Vyra," he whispered, his voice barely carrying over the wind. "Are you still alive?" A few meters away, his companion stirred. Vyra was slightly smaller than Kale, with deep purple scales that had lost their shine. Her wings were folded tight against her body for warmth that would not come. She opened her silver eyes and looked at him. "Barely," she replied. Her voice was weak. "How long has it been?" "3 weeks since the Zalthans captured us," Kale said. He tried to move his legs, but the chains held firm. "Maybe 4. Time means nothing here." They were Draxians, a proud species that resembled the ancient dragons from human mythology. They stood on 2 powerful legs, had strong arms with sharp claws, and possessed wings that could carry them through the stars. For thousands of years, the Draxian warriors had been feared across the galaxy. They were nearly unstoppable in battle, but even the mighty could fall. The Zalthan Empire had laid a trap on the mining colony of Xerxes 7. Kale and Vyra had responded to a distress signal, thinking they would rescue civilians. Instead, they found an ambush. The Zalthans had used quantum chains, a cruel weapon that locked around their prey and slowly drained all energy. No amount of strength could break these chains. The harder you fought, the faster they drained you. Now they were prisoners on Frostholm, a planet so cold that most species would die in minutes. The Zalthans had left them here as trophies, planning to return once they were too weak to resist. Then they would be displayed in cages across the Empire, proof that even Draxian warriors could be defeated. "I never thought I would die like this," Vyra said quietly. "I always imagined falling in battle, with honor." "This is no honor," Kale agreed bitterly. "Left to freeze like forgotten cargo." They had tried everything. Kale had pulled against the chains until his scales tore and bled. Vyra had tried using her flame breath, but the cold air extinguished it before the flames could reach the metal. They had attempted to dig under the chains, but the ground was frozen, solid as stone. After 3 weeks, their energy was nearly gone. The blizzard grew stronger. Snow piled around their bodies, slowly burying them. Soon, they would be covered completely. Frozen monuments to their own failure. Kale closed his eyes. Perhaps it was better this way. A quick end in the ice was preferable to becoming Zalthon entertainment. At least here, they would die as warriors, even if no one would know their fate. "Kale," Vyra said suddenly. Her voice had changed, sharper now. "Do you see that?" He forced his eyes open. "See what?" "There, in the snow, something is moving." Kale stared into the white storm. At first, he saw nothing but endless snow. Then, he noticed it. A small, dark shape, moving slowly through the blizzard. It was walking toward them. "Probably a Zalthon guard," Kale said, his heart sinking. "Come, to check if we are dead yet." "Refurrow." Cries. "No," Vyra said, watching carefully. The figure came closer. It was definitely not Zalthon. The Zalthans were tall and thin, with long limbs and skin like black glass. This creature was much smaller, perhaps only 2 meters tall. It wore thick layers of clothing, wrapped in furs and insulated materials. Its face was hidden behind a mask and goggles. "What species is that?" Vyra wondered aloud. "I do not know," Kale admitted. "Nothing should survive out here without proper equipment. Even Zalthans need heated suits." The figure stopped a few meters away from them. It stood very still, observing them. Kale could feel its eyes studying their chains, their wounds, their weakened state. He tensed, preparing for whatever came next. If this was another enemy, there was nothing he could do to fight back. But he would not beg. "Who are you?" Vira called out. "What do you want?" The figure tilted its head, as if considering the question. Then it began walking closer. Each step was careful, deliberate. It circled around KL first, examining the chains from different angles. Then it moved to Vira, and did the same. KL growled low in his throat. "Answer her question, stranger. We may be chained, but we still have teeth." The figure stopped and looked directly at him. Then it reached up and pulled down the mask, covering its face. KL stared in disbelief. The creature before them had smooth skin, tan in color. Its face was flat, with a small nose and large eyes, brown like earth. Hair, dark and pulled back, framed its features. It was young, perhaps, though KL had no reference for this species. "You are human?" Vira gasped. The creature nodded once. "Yes," it said in broken galactic common. The universal language most species used for trade. The accent was strange, the words coming slowly as if it was translating in its mind. "My name is Sarah Chen." KL and Vira exchanged glances. Humans were one of the newest species to reach space. They had only achieved faster than light travel 60 years ago. In galactic terms, they were babies. Most species considered them weak, fragile, and unimportant. They had no natural armor, no claws or fangs, no venom or thick hide. They were small and soft, with lifespans barely long enough to master basic technology. What was a human doing on Frostholm, walking through a blizzard that should kill it instantly? Sarah knelt beside Kale's chains. She pulled off one thick glove and touched the metal with her bare fingers. Kale felt a small pulse of energy from the contact. "These chains," Sarah said slowly, searching for words. "Quantum chains. I have seen this design before." She looked up at Kale, meeting his golden eyes with her brown ones. "I can help you, but you need to trust me." Kale stared at this small, fragile human. She should be dead. The cold alone should have killed her. Yet here she was, offering help to two dying warriors she had never met. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you help us?" Sarah stood and pulled her glove back on. She looked at both of them, her expression serious. "Because where I come from, we do not leave people to die. If we can help them," she said simply. "And because I think, maybe, we both need each other to survive what comes next." The wind howled. The snow fell. And in the frozen wasteland of Frostholm, two dying dragons decided to trust a human. Sarah Chen studied the quantum chains with intense focus. Her breath formed clouds in the freezing air, but she seemed unaffected by the cold that was killing KL and Vira. She circled around them again, examining every link, every connection point where the chains met their bodies. "How are you alive?" Vira asked, her voice weak. "Humans cannot survive this temperature. I have read about your species. You require warmth." Sarah looked up from the chains and smiled slightly. "We require many things, but humans are very good at adapting." She tapped her thick coat. "Thermal insulation, heat packs, layered clothing, and determination." Kale watched her carefully. "You did not answer the real question. What is a human doing on Frostholm? This is Zalthon territory. Your people have no business here." Sarah's smile faded. She sat down in the snow, taking a moment to rest. "I did not plan to be here. My ship crashed 3 months ago." 3 months? Vira said in disbelief. "Impossible. No one survives on Frostholm for 3 months alone." "I did not say it was easy," Sarah replied. She pulled a small metal device from her coat pocket. It looked like it had been built from spare parts, wires wrapped around a power cell. "My cargo ship, the Meridian Explorer, was carrying salvage equipment. We were traveling through this sector when our engines failed. The Zalthons shot us down, thinking we were spies." KL felt a flicker of respect. The Zalthons were efficient killers. Few survived their attacks. "My crew did not make it," Sarah continued quietly. I was the only survivor. I crashed near an abandoned mining station about 20 kilometers from here. I have been living there, using whatever I could find. For 3 months, Kale repeated. What did you eat? Where did you find power? Sarah gestured around them. This planet may be frozen, but it is not empty. The old mining station had emergency supplies. I learned to melt ice for water. I found sealed containers of protein rations. When those ran out, I learned to hunt the ice crawlers that live underground. Vira's eyes widened. Ice crawlers are poisonous to most species. Yes, Sarah agreed. I got very sick the first time I ate one. But I had no choice. After a while, my body adapted. Humans can eat almost anything if we prepare it correctly. KL was beginning to understand. Humans were not strong like Draxians. They had no natural weapons or armor. But they survived through intelligence and adaptation. They found solutions where others saw only death. You still have not explained how you found us, Kale said. Sarah held up her makeshift device. I built this from parts of my ship. It is a simple scanner, very basic. It detects energy signatures. 2 weeks ago, I detected something powerful nearby. I thought maybe it was a Zalthon base with supplies I could steal. But you found us instead. Vira finished. Yes, I have been watching from a distance, trying to understand the situation. I saw the Zalthon guards patrol this area twice a day. I saw you both growing weaker. Yesterday, I decided I had to help. Why? Kale demanded. We are strangers. We could kill you the moment these chains are removed. You know Draxians have a reputation across the galaxy. We are warriors, not friends to weak species. Sarah met his gaze without fear. I know your reputation, but I also know what it feels like to be alone and dying. I know what it means to have no hope. She stood up, brushing snow from her coat. Besides, I need allies. The Zalthons patrol here regularly. Eventually, they will find my camp. When that happens, I need someone strong enough to help me escape this planet. Vira laughed, though it came out as a painful cough. You are honest, at least. Very well, human. If you can free us, we will help you leave Frostholm. Draxians pay their debts. Good, Sarah said. She knelt beside Vira's chains again. Now let me work. These quantum chains are complex, but I think I understand the principle. Kale watched as Sarah pulled out several small tools from her coat. They looked handmade, crafted from salvaged materials. She began working on the connection point, where Vira's chains met the ground. Quantum chains work by creating a frequency lock, Sarah explained as she worked. Her fingers moved quickly despite the cold. They match the energy frequency of the prisoner's body. The more you struggle, the more they drain you because they feed on your own power. We know this, Kale said impatiently. We have been living with these chains for weeks. Yes, but here is what most species do not understand, Sarah continued. She attached her scanner device to the chain. The frequency lock requires constant adjustment. The chains must constantly measure and match your energy. That means there is a gap, a tiny moment between measurements, when the lock is vulnerable. Vira lifted her head with interest. How do you know this? Because humans cannot sense these frequencies naturally, Sarah explained. Most species in the galaxy can feel energy directly, but humans had to build machines to detect it. We had to learn every detail of how it works. She pressed several buttons on her device. And when you must learn something from nothing, you notice things others miss. Kale was impressed despite himself. The human was right. Draxians felt energy like breathing. They never questioned how it worked. But humans, coming from a low-energy world, had to study every aspect to understand it. Sarah's device began to beep. There, she said with satisfaction. I found the frequency gap. Now I need to disrupt it at exactly the right moment. She pulled out another tool. This one with exposed wires and a small battery. This will create an electromagnetic pulse. Very targeted. It should confuse the chains for a few seconds. That will be enough to break the connection. Should? Kale repeated. You are not certain? Sarah looked at him seriously. I am an engineer, not a miracle worker. This is my best guess based on what I have learned. It might work, it might fail, but doing nothing means you both die here. Vira nodded slowly. I trust you, human. Do what you must. Sarah positioned her device carefully. When I activate this, the chains will resist. You will feel pain. But you must stay still, or the frequency will relock immediately. Can you do that? I am a Draxian warrior, Vira said with pride. I can endure pain. Good. Ready? 3, 2, 1, 3. Sarah pressed the activation button. Electricity sparked across the chains. Vira's body went rigid. Her jaw clenched tight. The chains glowed brighter, fighting against the disruption. For a terrible moment, Kale thought it had failed. Then, with a sound like breaking glass, one section of chain fell away from Vira's body. Sarah immediately grabbed the loose end and pulled. More connections broke. The chains fell into the snow, their blue glow fading to nothing. Vira gasped and rolled onto her side, free for the first time in weeks. Her body trembled with exhaustion and relief. It worked, Kale breathed. You actually did it. Sarah smiled, but the expression vanished quickly. Her head snapped toward the horizon. In the distance, lights appeared through the snow. Red lights, moving fast. Zalthon patrol ships, Sarah said, her voice urgent. The chains had alarms. They know something went wrong. Vira tried to stand but collapsed. She was too weak to fly or fight. Kale pulled against his remaining chains desperately. Free me! I can fight them! Sarah shook her head. No time. They will be here in 2 minutes. We need to hide. Where? Vira demanded. There is nothing here but ice. The Zalthon ships grew closer, their engines roaring over the wind. Sarah grabbed Vira's arm and began pulling her toward a ridge of ice. I found a cave yesterday. It is small, but it will hide us. Come on! Kale watched helplessly as Sarah dragged Vira through the snow. The human was small, but she moved with surprising strength. They disappeared behind the ice ridge just as the first Zalthon ship landed nearby. Kale closed his eyes. He was still chained, still helpless. But for the first time in weeks, he felt something new. The ice cave was barely large enough for 2 people. Sarah pushed Vira inside and crawled in after her. The opening was hidden behind fallen ice chunks, invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. What about Kale? Vira whispered urgently. We cannot leave him. We have no choice right now, Sarah replied quietly. She pressed herself against the cave wall, pulling Vira deeper into the shadows. If they find us, we all die. We must wait. Through a tiny gap in the ice, they could see the landing area. 3 Zalthon patrol ships had touched down. Their black metal hulls reflected no light, making them look like holes cut in reality. Boarding ramps lowered, and Zalthon soldiers emerged. The Zalthons were tall and thin, over 3 meters in height. Their bodies were covered in smooth black skin that looked like polished glass. They had 4 arms, each ending in 3 long fingers. Their heads were oval-shaped with no visible eyes. But Sarah knew they could see perfectly through some method humans did not understand. 6 soldiers surrounded KL. One of them, wearing red markings on its shoulders, knelt beside the broken chains that had held Vira. Captain, the Zalthon said in its clicking language. Sarah's translator earpiece converted the words to Galactic Common. One prisoner has escaped. The chains were disrupted by an electromagnetic pulse. The captain examined the chains carefully. Impossible. Draxians cannot generate such technology while imprisoned. Someone help them. It stood and looked around the frozen landscape. Search the area. Find whoever did this. Kale spoke, his voice strong despite his weakness. There is no one. I disrupted the chains myself. You underestimated Draxian power. The captain walked over to Kale and struck him across the face. Do not lie to me, dragon. I know what your species can and cannot do. Someone with technical knowledge freed your companion. It gestured to the other soldiers. Spread out. Use thermal scanners. Find them. Inside the cave, Sarah's hand went to a small device on her belt. She pressed a button, and immediately her body heat signature began to fade. Beside her, Vira was shivering, her scales making soft clicking sounds. "What did you do?" Vira whispered. "Thermal dampener," Sarah explained quietly. "I built it from my ship's stealth systems. It scatters our heat signature, makes us invisible to their scanners, but it only works for about 30 minutes before the battery dies." Vira looked at the small human with new respect. "You prepared for this." "I always prepare," Sarah said. "On Earth, we have a saying: hope for the best, plan for the worst." The Zalthon soldiers began their search. They moved in organized patterns, covering every meter of ground. Their scanners swept back and forth, searching for any sign of life. One soldier came within 5 meters of their hiding spot. Sarah held her breath. Vira pressed herself against the cave wall, trying to be as still as stone. The soldier's scanner passed over their position. For a moment, it seemed to pause. Then it continued on, finding nothing. After several minutes, the soldiers regrouped near their ships. The captain looked frustrated. "Nothing," one soldier reported. "No thermal signatures except the chained prisoner. No footprints that are not our own. Nothing." The captain turned to Kale. "Where is your companion?" "Dead," Kale lied smoothly. "The chains drained her. She died this morning. I was trying to reach her body when the alarm triggered." The captain studied him. "You expect me to believe that?" "Believe what you wish," Kale said. "Search all you want. You will find nothing." The captain was silent for a long moment. Then it turned to its soldiers. "Load the prisoner onto Transport Ship 2. Take him to the command vessel. Warlord Thex will want to question him personally." "What about the search?" another soldier asked. "Continue it," the captain ordered. "But the warlord's orders are clear. The prisoners must be delivered within 2 days. We cannot waste more time here. If something is hiding in this frozen waste, it will die soon enough without our help." The soldiers began preparing to move Kale. They attached power dampeners to his remaining chains, making him even weaker. Kale did not resist. He simply looked toward the ice ridge where Sarah and Vira were hidden, and gave the smallest nod. The Zalthans loaded Kale onto one of their ships. 2 ships lifted off, carrying him away. The 3rd ship remained behind, and 4 soldiers stayed to continue the search. Inside the cave, Sarah checked her thermal dampener. 20 minutes of battery life left. "They took him," Vira said, her voice heavy with guilt. "Because of me. Because I am free. They are taking him to their warlord." "They were always going to take you both eventually," Sarah said practically. "At least now one of you is free. We can use that." Vira looked at her. "How?" "I am too weak to fight. I can barely stand. And there are 4 Zalthon soldiers out there with advanced weapons." Sarah smiled, but it was not a happy expression. It was the smile of someone planning something dangerous. "Then we do not fight them directly. We do what humans do best. We survive, we adapt, and we outsmart them." "Explain," Vira demanded. Sarah crawled to the back of the cave. There, hidden in the shadows, was a pile of supplies: thermal blankets, chemical heat packs, sealed food containers, and various electronic components. "This is my emergency cache," Sarah explained. "I have 3 of these hidden around the area. I built them over the past month, preparing for when the Zalthons finally discovered my main camp." She pulled out a weather monitoring device. "Frostholm has predictable storm patterns. Every 70 hours, a massive blizzard sweeps across this region. The storms are so intense that even Zalthon ships cannot fly through them safely." Vira's eyes widened as she understood. "When is the next storm?" Sarah checked her device. 6 hours from now. If we can survive until then, the storm will force the Zalthans to take shelter. Their ships will be grounded. And in the chaos, we can move." "Move where?" Vira asked. To the Zalthon command vessel, Sarah said calmly. To rescue Kale. Vira stared at her as if she had lost her mind. You want to attack a Zalthon warship? With just the two of us? When I can barely walk, and you are a human with no weapons? No, Sarah corrected. I want to sneak onto a Zalthon warship during a massive storm when their sensors are useless and their attention is divided. There is a difference. You are insane, Vira said, but there was admiration in her voice. Perhaps, Sarah agreed. She began pulling out pieces of equipment and organizing them. But I did not survive 3 months on Frostholm by being careful. I survived by taking calculated risks. Outside, they could hear the Zalthon soldiers moving around, searching. Their clicking language echoed off the ice. Sarah handed Vira a thermal blanket and a chemical heat pack. Here, we need to keep your body temperature stable. You are still recovering from the chains. Vira accepted them gratefully. As the warmth spread through her body, she felt strength slowly returning. You could have run, she said quietly. When the Zalthons came, you could have left us and saved yourself. Why did you stay? Sarah was quiet for a moment, checking her equipment. On Earth, in my culture, we have a concept called Ubuntu. It means, I am because we are. The idea is that our humanity is connected to others. We cannot be truly human alone. She looked at Vira directly. When I saw you and Kale dying in those chains, I saw people who deserved help. It did not matter that you were a different species. It did not matter that helping you was dangerous. What mattered was that I could help, so I should help. Vira was silent, processing this. In Draxian culture, strength was individual. Warriors proved themselves alone. The idea that helping others made you stronger, not weaker, was completely foreign. Your species is strange, Vira finally said. We are survivors, Sarah replied. And now, so are you. Rest for a few hours. When the storm comes, we move fast. Outside, the wind was beginning to pick up. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon. The Zalthon soldiers continued their search, unaware that the weather itself was about to become their enemy. Sarah checked her equipment one more time. Electromagnetic disruptor, check. Portable scanner, check. Lock bypass tools, check. Thermal dampeners, check. She looked at Vira, who was already looking stronger with warmth and rest. Ready to save your friend? Sarah asked. Vira showed her teeth in what might have been a smile. Let us show these Zalthons what happens when they underestimate us. The storm clouds grew darker. Thunder rumbled across the frozen plains, and two unlikely allies prepared for the impossible. The storm arrived exactly as Sarah predicted. Within minutes, the wind became a roaring monster, hurling snow and ice with violent force. Visibility dropped to nearly zero. The temperature plummeted even further, reaching levels that would freeze exposed flesh in seconds. The 4 Zalthon soldiers retreated to their ship, seeking shelter from the deadly weather. Sarah watched them through her scanner, tracking their heat signatures. Now, she whispered to Vira. We move now, while they cannot see. They emerged from the ice cave. The storm hit them like a physical wall. Vira stumbled, still weak from her imprisonment. Sarah grabbed her arm, supporting her weight despite being half the Draxian size. This way, Sarah shouted over the wind. Stay close to me. They moved through the blizzard, Sarah leading with absolute confidence. She had mapped this terrain over the past 3 months, memorizing every ice formation, every dangerous crevasse. Even blind in the storm, she knew where to step. Vira marveled at this. The human was small and fragile, yet she navigated the deadly storm as if it were her home. Perhaps, in a way, it had become her home. Adaptation made even the impossible seem natural. After 30 minutes of brutal travel, they reached higher ground. Sarah stopped behind a large ice boulder and pulled out her scanner. There, she said, pointing through the snow. The Zalthon warship was massive, over 200 meters long. It rested in a valley, protected from the worst of the storm. The black metal hull was covered in ice, but lights glowed from various windows and ports. Guards patrolled the exterior, but the storm forced them to stay close to entry points. "How do we get inside?" Vira asked. "Even if we reach the ship, they will have security systems." Sarah pulled out her electromagnetic disruptor. "This device can confuse their sensors for about 2 minutes. But we only get one chance. If they detect us, we are finished." She studied the ship carefully through her scanner. "There. See that exhaust port on the lower level? It is designed to vent heat from the engines. The opening is small, but I can fit through. You will need to wait here." "Absolutely not," Vira protested. "I will not let you go alone. You cannot fit through that port," Sarah said practically. "And you are still too weak to fight. If I fail, you need to be ready to escape." "And do what?" Vira demanded. "Live while my oath brother dies in a Zalthon prison? That is not the Draxian way." Sarah met her eyes. "Then trust me to succeed. Trust that a human can do what needs to be done." Vira wanted to argue, but she recognized the determination in Sarah's expression. This human had already done the impossible by surviving 3 months alone. Perhaps she could do it again. "What is your plan?" Vira asked. Sarah began explaining quickly. "I will enter through the exhaust port. Once inside, I will use my scanner to locate Kale. The Zalthons will likely keep him in the detention level, which should be in the lower sections of the ship." She held up a small device covered in wires. "This is a chain frequency disruptor, like the one I used on you. I will free Kale, and then we will create a distraction." "What kind of distraction?" Vira asked. Sarah's smile was dangerous. "The kind that makes them forget about 2 prisoners and focus on saving their ship." She handed Vira a communication device. "Wait here. When you hear my signal, be ready to move. We will need to escape quickly." Before Vira could respond, Sarah disappeared into the storm. The human moved like a ghost, using the blizzard as cover. Within moments, she had vanished completely. Vira crouched behind the ice boulder, watching the warship. She felt helpless, something no Draxian warrior enjoyed. But she understood Sarah's logic. Sometimes the best way to help was to trust others to do their part. Inside the warship, Sarah crawled through the exhaust vent. The metal was hot, despite the external cold, heated by the ship's engines. She ignored the discomfort and kept moving forward. The vent opened into a maintenance corridor. Sarah dropped down silently, activating her thermal dampener. She became invisible to the ship's sensors. Just another shadow in the metal walls. She pulled out her scanner and began searching for Kale's energy signature. It took 3 minutes of careful searching before she found him. Detention level, cell block 7, 2 floors below her current position. Sarah moved through the ship like water through cracks. When guards passed, she hid in maintenance alcoves or behind equipment. She took the emergency ladders instead of the main corridors, avoiding areas with heavy security. Finally, she reached the detention level. The corridor was quiet, lit by dim blue lights. At the end of the hallway, she could see a cell with energy bars glowing across its entrance. Inside the cell, Kale sat against the wall. Quantum chains wrapped around his body. He looked exhausted but alert. When Sarah appeared at the cell entrance, his eyes widened in shock. "Human?" he whispered. "How did you—" "Quiet," Sarah interrupted. She pulled out her disruptor and began working on the cell's energy bars. "We do not have much time." "This is madness," Kale said, but he sounded impressed. "You infiltrated a Zalthon warship alone?" "I had good motivation," Sarah replied. The energy bars flickered and died. She rushed inside and began working on Kale's chains. "Hold still. This will hurt." She activated the electromagnetic pulse. Kale's body went rigid as electricity coursed through the chains. But his Draxian endurance was legendary. He made no sound, simply enduring the pain until the chains fell away. He stood slowly, testing his restored freedom. Strength flowed back into his limbs. His eyes glowed with renewed power. "Thank you, Sarah Chen," he said formally. "I owe you a life debt." Thank me when we are off this ship, Sarah said. She pulled out several small devices from her coat. First, we need to create chaos. Kale watched as she attached the devices to various panels in the detention area. What are those? Overload triggers, Sarah explained. I built them from my ship's power cells. When activated, they will cause feedback loops in the ship's systems. The Zalthons will think their engines are overheating. She activated the last device and grabbed Kale's arm. Run! They sprinted through the corridor. Behind them, alarms began blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the ship. Zalthon voices shouted in their clicking language, reporting false engine malfunctions on multiple decks. Sarah led Kale through the chaos, navigating the ship with her scanner. They reached an airlock on the outer hull. This will take us outside, Sarah said. Vira is waiting nearby. Once we regroup, we run for the ice caves. Kale nodded. A sound plan. You should have been a military tactician. Human. I am an engineer, Sarah replied, opening the airlock. We solve problems. This was just another problem to solve. They stepped into the storm. The cold hit them like a hammer, but Kale's restored strength let him withstand it. Sarah activated her communicator. Vira, we are out. Move to extraction point Beta. Through the blizzard, they saw a purple shape moving toward them. Vira was running. Her strength partially recovered. She reached them and immediately embraced Kale. Brother, she said with relief. I know, Kale interrupted. But thanks to our human friend, I am free. Behind them, the warship's alarms continued screaming. Zalthon soldiers poured out of the exits, searching for the escaped prisoners. But the storm was their ally, hiding them in sheets of white snow. Move, Sarah commanded, before they organize a proper search. The three of them ran into the frozen wilderness. Kale supported Vira when she stumbled. Sarah led them with unwavering confidence through the deadly terrain. After an hour of hard travel, they reached another of Sarah's emergency caches. They took shelter in a deep ice crevasse. Hidden from sensors and eyes alike, they collapsed against the ice walls, breathing hard. Kyle looked at Sarah with something like wonder. You infiltrated a warship, freed a prisoner, and escaped. All while being the weakest species in the galaxy. Sarah smiled tiredly. Humans are not strong, but we are clever, and we never give up. Vira pulled out a thermal blanket and wrapped it around Sarah. You have earned the respect of 2 Draxian warriors. That is no small thing. The storm raged outside. But inside their shelter, 3 unlikely allies had become something more. They had become friends. The storm continued for 2 days. During that time, Sarah, Kale, and Vira remained hidden in the ice crevasse. Sarah shared her limited supplies equally among them. She showed the Draxians how to prepare ice crawler meat so it was safe to eat. She taught them techniques for preserving body heat in extreme cold. Kale and Vira watched in fascination as this small human demonstrated survival skills they had never imagined. She turned ice into drinking water, using chemical reactions. She repaired damaged equipment with nothing but spare wire and determination. She rationed food so carefully that everyone had exactly what they needed. Where did you learn all this? Kale asked on the second day. Sarah was working on her scanner, replacing a burnt circuit. On Earth, humans live in many different environments. Deserts, jungles, mountains, frozen tundras. We had to learn to survive everywhere, or we would have gone extinct long ago. Your planet forced you to become adaptable, Vira observed. Yes, Sarah agreed. Earth is beautiful, but it is not gentle. It taught us to think creatively, to use what we have, to never give up even when hope seems lost. She finished repairing the scanner and tested it. There, working again. We can monitor Zalthon movements now. Kale looked at the device with new appreciation. You built this from salvage. You built everything you have used from broken pieces. That is remarkable. Sarah shrugged. Humans have always been good at making something from nothing. We started with stone tools, and eventually reached the stars. We just keep building, keep learning, keep trying. On the third morning, the storm finally broke. Pale sunlight filtered through the ice, turning the world into a crystal paradise. Sarah checked her scanner and frowned. The Zalthans are mobilizing, she reported. Multiple ships are launching from the command vessel. They are conducting a systematic search of the entire region. They will find us eventually, Vyra said grimly. We cannot hide forever. Kael nodded. And I am concerned about something else. The Zalthans know you helped us. Human. They saw your technology, your methods. They will report this to their empire. So? Sarah asked, though she suspected where this was going. So they will identify you as human, Kael explained. And the Zalthon Empire does not forgive those who defy them. They will send forces to Earth. Your entire species could be in danger because you helped two strangers. Sarah's face went pale. She had been so focused on immediate survival that she had not considered the larger consequences. Oh no. My people. My planet. Vyra reached out and gently touched Sarah's shoulder with her clawed hand. Do not despair. There may be a solution. Kael stood, his full strength restored after 2 days of rest and food. Sarah Chen, you saved our lives when you had no obligation to do so. You risked everything for strangers. In Draxian culture, such actions create a sacred bond. What kind of bond? Sarah asked. A life debt, Vyra explained. When someone saves a Draxian's life, they become oathkin. Your enemies become our enemies. Your battles become our battles. Your people become our people. Kael knelt before Sarah, placing his clawed hand over his heart. I, Kael of the Bronze Wing clan, declare a life debt to Sarah Chen of Earth. Her species is now under the protection of my clan. Vyra knelt as well, mirroring the gesture. I, Vyra, of the Violet Scale clan, declare the same. Humanity is now oathkin to the Draxian people. Sarah looked confused. I do not understand. What does this mean? It means we will contact our homeworld, Kael said. We will tell them everything that happened here. We will explain how a human showed more honor, more courage, and more compassion than species who have traveled the stars for millennia. Vyra continued. The Draxian Empire will declare humanity as protected allies. Any attack on Earth will be considered an attack on our homeworld. The Zalthans will not dare to touch your planet once they know Draxians stand beside you. Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. You would do this? Risk war with the Zalthon Empire for my people? You risked your life for us, Kael said simply. This is the Draxian way. Honor demands it. But more than that, friendship demands it. He stood and placed both hands on Sarah's shoulders. You taught us something important, Sarah Chen. You taught us that strength is not just about power or weapons. True strength is helping others even when it costs you everything. That is a lesson my people have forgotten. Vyra activated a communication device she had taken from a Zalthon guard during their escape. I am sending a priority signal to the Draxian homeworld now. They will receive our testimony within hours. Sarah wiped her eyes. What will they say? Will they believe that a human helped you? They will believe us, Kael assured her. Draxians do not lie about matters of honor. When we tell them what you did, every warrior in our empire will know your name. Over the next hour, they recorded their full testimony. Kael and Vyra spoke in their native language, their voices formal and powerful. They described their capture, their imprisonment, and how they had accepted death. Then they described Sarah's arrival, her impossible survival, her clever plans, and her unwavering determination to help them, despite all risks. When they finished, Vyra sent the transmission. It is done. The message will reach the High Council within 6 hours. Now we wait, Kael said. He looked at Sarah. But we will not wait here. Come. It is time to leave Frostholm. How? Sarah asked. The Zalthans have ships everywhere. Kael smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Let me show you why Draxians are feared across the galaxy. They emerged from the ice crevasse. The Draxian siblings stood side by side, their wings spreading wide. With their strength fully restored, they looked magnificent. Bronze and violet scales gleamed in the sunlight. Their eyes glowed with inner fire. Kale raised his hands toward the sky and roared. The sound echoed across the frozen plains. A challenge and a declaration. Within minutes, Zalthon's ships appeared on the horizon, racing toward them. But Kale and Vyra were ready. They took to the air, their powerful wings carrying them upward despite the thin atmosphere. Sarah, Kale called down. Hold on to Vyra. We are leaving this frozen prison. Sarah grabbed onto Vyra's extended claws. The Draxian lifted her effortlessly, carrying her into the sky. Below them, Zalthon's ships fired weapons, but the blasts missed as the Draxians dodged with aerial grace. Kale flew beside them, his body glowing with energy. He unleashed his flame breath at the pursuing ships, forcing them to break formation. The Draxians flew higher and faster, leaving the Zalthons behind. They escaped Frostholm's atmosphere and entered open space. In the distance, they could see Draxian military vessels approaching, responding to Vyra's emergency signal. Sarah clung to Vyra, watching her frozen prison planet shrink below them. She had survived 3 months alone on that world. Now she was leaving it behind forever, carried by friends she had made in the most unlikely way. 1 week later, Sarah stood in the great hall of the Draxian homeworld. The chamber was enormous, carved from golden stone and decorated with battle banners from 1,000 clans. Hundreds of Draxian warriors filled the space, all watching her with curious eyes. The High Council sat on elevated thrones, ancient warriors who had led their people for centuries. The eldest, a massive Draxian with silver scales, spoke in a voice like thunder. Sarah Chen of Earth, we have heard the testimony of Kale and Vyra. Their clans have declared life debt. They say you possess honor worthy of any Draxian warrior. Honor. Sarah stood straight, trying not to show her nervousness. I only did what any decent person would do. I helped those who needed help. The council members looked at each other. Then the eldest smiled. That is precisely why humanity deserves our respect. You help, not for glory or reward, but because it is right. He stood and raised his voice. Let it be known throughout the galaxy. Humanity is now oathkin to the Draxian Empire. Their world is under our protection. Any who threaten Earth will face the full might of our fleets. The assembled warriors roared their approval, the sound shaking the very walls. Later, in a private chamber, Kale and Vyra met with Sarah one final time before she returned to Earth. You changed everything, Vyra said softly. Not just for us, but for all Draxians. You reminded us what honor truly means. Kale handed Sarah a crystal pendant carved with the symbol of his clan. Wear this. When you return to your people, show them this symbol. They will know that humanity has powerful friends among the stars. Sarah accepted the gift with gratitude. I will never forget you both. You were willing to risk everything for my people, just as I risked everything for you. That is what friends do, Kale said simply. 3 months later, when the Zalthon Empire sent a threatening message to Earth, they received an immediate response from the Draxian homeworld. The message was simple. Touch the humans and face extinction. The Zalthons withdrew their threat within hours. Sarah Chen returned to Earth as a hero. But she never sought glory. She simply told her story. How 2 dying dragons had trusted a human, and how that trust had created an alliance that changed the galaxy. And whenever young humans asked her how she survived those terrible months on Frostholm, she always gave the same answer. I survived because I never gave up. And I never gave up because I knew that somewhere, someone might need my help. That is what humans do. We help each other. We help others. And sometimes, that simple act of kindness can change everything. The pendant from Kale's clan hung around her neck, gleaming in the light. A symbol of friendship that crossed the stars. A reminder that the greatest strength is not found in weapons or power, but in the courage to help those in need. Even when it seems impossible. Especially when it seems impossible. The end.